Yo, what's up with it, y'all? It's JD and James, and we're back with another quick video. And today, we're going to be talking about what's the best investment that you can make in 2021. What's the best investment that you can make going into the future, next year, 2022. And James, why don't you touch on what we were just speaking about?
So we made a video last week, and we were basically talking about risk-taking. And we noticed some comments on the video were talking about investing your money in stocks and real estate, and they're talking about risk. But I think that actually missed the whole point of what we were talking about in the video. When it comes to investing, yes, you can invest in stocks, real estate, cryptocurrency. You can invest in minerals, you can invest in resources. But really, if you haven't built up an accumulation of capital, then those are some of the absolute worst investments you can make. If you're in your early 20s to 30s, the best investments you're going to make are going to be in yourself. These are things like, it could be your education, it could be books, it could be investing in healthy food so you feel better, you think better, you're more productive. It could even be investing in a plane ticket to travel and gain new experiences in the world.
Yeah, now I think all these things that James is speaking about are things that as a young man you have to invest in. You know, it's good to maybe, if you can, and maybe you have a stable job, to maybe put a tiny little percentage of your paycheck away and maybe put it into an index fund, or maybe put it into some cryptocurrency, some more risky stuff. But at the end of the day, we need to be investing in ourselves and building ourselves up, because we are, our best investment. Invest in your health. You should be working out at least 45 minutes to an hour every day. That's a huge investment that you should be making every day, because you have to look at it like this. In the long term, if you don't make that hour investment of working out every day, you might be shaving off 10 to 15 years off your life. Investing in healthy foods. If you don't make that investment, you might be shaving off another 10 years off your life. That might be 25 years right there. So these are extremely important things that you need to invest in. We're not necessarily telling you guys need to be super high level calisthenics or super high level performing athletes. It's more so, something that you're investing in yourself. That's also self-love as well. So these are definitely things that personally I think are extremely important to invest in. And as somebody who's traveled the world, I've been to over 30 different countries. I'm 36 years old. I started traveling probably heavy international when I was probably about James's age, probably about 26 years old. And to be honest with you, that the last 10 years of me traveling the globe has brought me so much experience, so much knowledge, so much wisdom. It's almost like no matter what circle I find myself in, no matter what group of people I find myself in, I've always got something to share with the group. It doesn't matter if I'm around some super rich people. It doesn't matter if I'm in the hood. It doesn't matter if I'm around people of, these different races, these different nationalities. We've always got something in common, because I've been everywhere and I've seen pretty much, all different types of people.
I think experiences are invaluable. You really can't put a dollar value on it. And a lot of people are looking for these kind of quick, almost get-rich-quick schemes or crazy returns. When we're talking about physical investments or different investment securities, you should be thinking about like maybe an 8% return. That would actually be very good. But when you invest in yourself, that's when you can find the 2,000% returns. You find a book and you find one gem in that book that sparks an idea for a business, or sparks an idea for how you can improve at a skill, which is going to get you in a better career. And that's the kind of almost infinite return investments, especially if you don't have a lot of capital to start with. You really have to invest in yourself first. I kind of had this thought maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I was thinking about risk, and I was thinking about how a lot of times people win the lottery and they can't hold that money. And the truth is, even if you make the lucky Bitcoin play, or you make some super high risk investment that's leveraged tenfold, and you get this crazy return, and you might make $1 million or $2 million out of that investment. But if you're not a $1 million person in terms of your skills, in terms of your mindset, in terms of your discipline, the world is going to take that money back from you because you don't have the discipline to maintain that kind of money. You don't have the skill set to keep an income that is going to allow you to live that type of lifestyle. So don't think of it as chasing an external dollar amount. Think of it as you're chasing an internal value amount. How can I make myself a more valuable person? How can I increase my skills that are going to make me more marketable as a person? What can I improve in myself? What experiences can I get that is going to make me be more valuable? It doesn't matter if you have a ton of money but you as yourself are not valuable, then you're broke. It really comes down to pour everything you can into your own development. And then when you're in your 50s or 60s or 70s even, that's when it's time to start investing in other people. You're bringing other people up. And you have the capital at that point that you might see the kid in his 20s and you might say, look, I see something special in him. I'm going to invest my money in him. You know, my time right now, I'm not at my creative peak, but I have the experiences now when I'm older to look back at people that are on that come up. They're on their growth journey, and then that's when you start investing into other people. But if you're early in your journey, do not invest into these big corporations. Those are run by other people. You'll get Elon Musk. He made, I think, $100 million selling PayPal. Did he take that money and then go give it to the S&P 500 or the U.S. government in bonds? Or did he buy a bunch of multifamily houses? No. He took that money and invested it all back into his own businesses, and he got other people to actually invest in him. That is true investing right there. Don't just think you're gonna find the next Bitcoin and you're gonna like some super special thing. You should be thinking, can I understand the blockchain technology? Can I create my own coin? Can I learn the skills required to come up with my own venture that's gonna be profitable? Don't think about constantly just, who can I invest in? No, think of how can I make myself more valuable?
Yeah, no, I think that's a huge point. I mean, I really don't even know how I could. James hit that one right on the nail, and I don't really know how I can really even expand on that too much. But what I took out of that is that, you know, that self-investment is paramount, it's pivotal. And when it comes down to making money in general, you need to look at making money. You need to not necessarily look at making money, but you need to look at, you know, how do I scale my value to everybody else? You know, how do I take what I do that's valuable? You know, say for instance, even with me and James, we might have something. James obviously has something that adds value into my life, and I have something that adds value into James' life. That's how friendships are made. But let's just say, for instance, I wanted to monetize, you know, whatever that value was. Then I'd start thinking to myself, how do I scale that out? You know what I mean? I had a conversation with one of my friends maybe about a week ago, and James actually had a similar conversation with her as well. And she's really against like capitalism. But you know, her thing about capitalism is that she just thinks about it in terms of making money. But I think about capitalism in a different way. I think about capitalism in terms of how many people can you help? How many people's lives can you actually improve? And then by improving more people's lives, you can actually make more money. But it all starts with yourself. So until you can actually improve your life and you figured out a formula to, you know, improve your life in one way, or make certain things better, or make a product that makes your life easier, and then you can start thinking about, how do I scale this out to everybody else? And I actually explained this to her as well, is that, you know, for her, she brought a lot of value into my life. So I told her, I said, you know, it's not really about, you know, the dollar amount that you can make. You need to remove that glass ceiling. You need to remove that glass ceiling and figure out how I'm bringing value into these people's lives. It's like you bring value into all of your friends' lives. How do you take that value and how do you distribute it to a larger scale? How do you distribute it to a larger audience? That could be through YouTube. It could be through writing a book. It could be anything, really. So it's really about creating value in yourself and then sharing that value with the world. And the less that you attach a dollar sign to that, the better, because that's going to make you focus more on your creativity and focus more on actually honing those skills in general.
And if you want to even go a little bit more crazy with it, the dollar is not some concrete foundation, static value. I can't even really describe it in words how most people view it.
Yeah.
But you have to realize every single day, the value of the dollar is constantly fluctuating against our currency, against other countries' currencies, against stocks, against real estate. At the end of the day, everything can be taken from us. All of our assets can be taken from us. There can be political changes. There can be country changes, wars, famine. But at the end of the day, you're always going to have in your head all the experiences that you've soaked up and all the skills that you've built. I honestly think for people in their early 20s, if they just focused on pick up a skill, it could be plumbing, you could be an electrician, you can build things, you could focus on programming. There's so many different skill sets. And don't think of, how much money per hour can I make doing this skill? No, think about how, in terms of percentage of people, where are you on that bell curve in terms of that skill? If you're trying to be a plumber, can you get to that top 5% of plumbers? Can you take your skill set, and the higher up you reach, the more valuable you are. If you can reach that top 1% of any skill, you can charge 5 times or 10 times as much as the next person, because they literally can't physically do the skill that you're capable of. That is where you create an insane amount of value, is through skills that take a long time to build. It might take you 10 years to reach a skill set, but you're gonna have that installed into you for the rest of your life, and that will never go anywhere. You will literally, you could be 65 years old and you could have everything taken away, but you're still gonna have that skill set that you built up when you're in your 20s.
It all starts from just laying one brick at a time. Every single day you should be putting a brick down. One brick at a time, another brick, another brick. Next thing you know, you've built this house of bricks that you've just been laying. You've been, planting one seed. You've been planting another seed. You've been planting another seed. Next thing you know, you have this beautiful garden. And it's just the constant work and the consistency aspect that's going to help you build these skill sets, and that's going to help you build all these experiences. And for me personally, I think that one thing that young men, and just any man, is going to have to think about as well, is that our most valuable asset is our time. So you really need to be focused on how you're spending that time. Are you spending that time at a dead-end job? Are you spending that time wasting time in a toxic relationship? You really need to worry about where you're spending your time, because your time is your biggest investment. I think the best thing that we can do is start off our day, every single day, giving our first 5 hours to ourselves, whether that's being meditation, whether that's being fitness, whether that's getting into our creative side. It might be writing, playing a musical instrument, it might be sketching, it could be honing your skills, it could be honing your craft, it could be video editing, it could be computer programming, mathematics. We should spend our first 5 hours of our day, and I know that seems like a lot, but it really isn't, because there's still a ton of time left on it and on the clock for the rest of the day for you to go to work, spend time with your girlfriend, trick off some time with your friends, doing all these different types of things. But time is your biggest asset, and I think that's probably the number one thing that I think that we need to really be focused on as far as an investment. Where are we spending our time? How are we spending our time? Are we spending our time being productive, or are we spending our time being productive for somebody else, or are we just straight up tricking off our time?
And I think one of my biggest mistakes I made in my early 20s was focusing on, when it comes to a career, focusing on the short term. One company might pay you a higher dollar amount, but they're having you do unskilled labor. and another company might have a much more difficult job or a more difficult task, and they might pay you less for that first 6 months or a year or 2 years, but the job you should pick is the one that's going to set you on the path for your 30s, for your 40s, for your 50s, or even skills that are going to allow you to go off on your own and create your own business. There's tons of jobs out there where people they're getting paid good money, but it's almost like you're just selling your time off with no future return value. You're actually just deteriorating each day. You're doing almost a mindless task that anybody could be trained to do. You could have it automated by a robot, and at the end of the day, you're not getting any better at it. You're just performing the same repetitive task over and over. That's not going to help you grow over a long period of time.
Exactly, and I think, not to cut you off, James, but I think it's really pivotal that us as individuals, us as people, realize that artificial intelligence is here. Artificial intelligence is here to take over all non-skilled labor jobs. So there's going to be a robot, there's going to be a computer that's able to do all these jobs, whether you're doing customer service, whether you're stocking warehouses, whether any of these jobs where it doesn't require any skill or education, there's going to be a robot. And even some of these jobs that actually do require some skill or education might be taken over by artificial intelligence. So we need to be figuring out how we can create a unique skill set that enables us to add value to the masses, enables us to add value to other people's lives. And I think it all starts with laying that foundation every morning. Give your first 4 to 6 hours of your day to yourself, honing a skill set, whether you want to be a musician, whether you want to be a calisthenics athlete, whether you want to be a YouTuber, video editor, computer programmer, all these things. You need to take the time every single day and put the time in, because like I said, the time is the most valuable asset that you have. Read books, and you don't necessarily even need to read books the whole way through. I think me and James were talking about this the other day, is that sometimes I might read a book and 90% of the book was just fluff, but there might be 10% of that book, it might be one chapter that I got straight gems from. You know what I mean? I'm talking about life-changing gems. I can think of a few books off the top of my head where I got just straight-up gems. As a Man Thinketh is one of my favorite books of all time. That book actually has a ton of gems all throughout it, and it's a very short book, so I recommend you read that. But I can even think about books like Outwitting the Devil. The whole book was pretty good, but I'd probably say 80% of it was fluff, but 20% of that book was extremely good. And I'm sure, James, you probably have a ton of books that you've read that you kind of feel similar about.
Yeah, I mentioned in the other video we were talking about, but I think it is actually worth it to reiterate it again in this video. The book's so good they can't ignore you. He really just emphasizes the fact that if you want to find something that's fulfilling, pick a skill set and put deliberate, focused, find that flow state and practice that skill. Keep sharpening that tool over and over the years, and keep on climbing up that skill mountain until you are at the top level of whatever field you're in terms of skill. And that's when you're going to find that deep fulfillment, and you're going to produce a ton of value, and you're not going to be replaceable. I really think it's about, especially for gaining any type of skill when it comes to calisthenics, when it comes to your career, pretty much any aspect of life, find that flow state, find that powerful, concentrated, emotional state where there's nothing else in the universe. You're literally inside whatever skill you're attempting to learn, and that's gonna turn your progress from something that might take you 10 hours to learn, you might grasp it in 2 hours if it's that true, focused, deliberate practice.
And don't get complacent either, because a lot of times I think we can get complacent. I think that's actually a natural thing, is to get complacent. Even when it comes down to me and James with our calisthenics, is sometimes we probably can get complacent. We can reach a level, like I know we get to a level, we're at a level right now where, pretty much every time me and James are at the park, somebody comes up and asks a question or gives us a compliment in terms of or maybe our skill set or maybe our physique. And a lot of times that can get to our head. But at the same time, you need to be looking up at the people who are doing more than you. You need to be looking up at the people who are doing things, on a larger scale than you. And you need to look at that as what you're trying to strive for. Don't just get complacent with being good. You should be wanting to be great at whatever your passion is.
And also, you are capable of reaching that top 5% in anything. I mean, we talked about this before.
Definitely.
You might not ever be able to reach the best in the world. That is going to take a certain level of talent. If you're 5'9", you're not going to be the best basketball player in the world. That's just life. But if you actually put in the time and the focused effort, you can blow by all the other people that were quote unquote more talented than you are, but they don't have that same drive. They don't have that dog.
And just thinking about somebody who's 5'9", if you guys watch NBA basketball, maybe about 5 years ago, there's a player called Isaiah Thomas, not the old school Isaiah Thomas, but the new school Isaiah Thomas. Played for the Boston Celtics, 5'9". This dude was, I think he might have led the league in scoring that year, but he was at least number 1, 2, or 3 in scoring that year. He averaged 29 points a game at 5'9". This is in a league full of giants.
And you think nobody told him growing up in high school, oh, you're never gonna make it, you're too short? No, he was determined. He's like, I'm not gonna accept what you told me. I'm gonna write my own story. And you have to get into that mindset. I call it the record-breaking mentality. The record-breaking mentality means even if nobody in the world has done it before, you could be that person. And it doesn't mean you are going to be that person, but it just means that that's a possibility and you're not going to place that limitation on yourself.
Man, I literally just watched something yesterday. I don't even remember where I got this from. I don't know where I got this from, but I was watching something. It was like a motivational speech I watched yesterday. And it was talking about how up until 1958, nobody had ever ran a sub 4 minute mile, right? And then since 1958, like 20,000 people have ran a mile under 4 minutes, and high schoolers have ran a mile under 4 minutes. But it was just that mental block that was preventing people from running under 4 minutes because nobody thought it could be done. It's like, oh, it's not humanly possible. Nobody's ever done it before.
This taps into a different conversation we had on idolatry of people worship, this hero worship. In Calisthenics, we always see it all the time. These people, oh my God, Chris Heria,
Even today, we was just at the park and somebody was asking us, oh, do you guys have a YouTube channel? Oh, do you guys know who Chris Heria is? Oh, and it's nothing wrong with watching Chris Heria. The dude's a phenomenal athlete. But the dude was at the park was just like, oh yeah, I follow his. But you could tell he was just like going goo gaga over Chris Heria when it's just like, man, Chris Heria is just another person. I'm pretty sure there's somebody out there who's watching this video who has the capability of blowing past all the things that Chris Heria has done. They just haven't tapped into it yet. You know what I mean? We're all capable of doing some amazing things.
And when you do have that mindset of you start worshiping someone, what happens is in your subconscious you will prevent yourself from reaching that performance level. And you'll actually notice this whenever you talk to somebody with this is more in the mental realm. Some people, you might go and you're talking to your friends and you might have your thoughts flowing and you like think of some good creative ideas, but then you get in a conversation with someone who's a PhD or a doctor and your brain starts shutting down. You like stop expressing yourself because you almost feel like, what could I possibly have to offer this person? They're so much higher of a level, instead of realizing that no, they're a person just like you. They just might be 10 years ahead in that process. It doesn't mean that they're genetically different than you. It just means they went through a process to reach the level they're currently at. And your potential could be a lot higher. I've trained people who had that, they were worshiping Chris Heria, some of the top people, and they actually had better genetics than the people they were worshiping. They just didn't know it. They just didn't know they were a lot earlier in their training process. But they were actually more talented as an athlete than the person they were worshiping.
And I'll say I think even for me and you, James, we might have had, it might not have been an idolatry thing, but I think when we might have first started off calisthenics, we might have seen some people doing some things that were like super crazy to us. And now we're at the point where we can do the same things.
Yeah.
And I remember the other day when we were at the park and we were talking about those Hannibal waist-high pull-ups, and then you just did them and you were like, damn, this shit is easy. You know what I mean? It's like you don't even know